do want to put a quick disclaimer at the beginning of this episode that even though, yes, we are talking about a lot of medical things, we are not medical professionals, so none of this should be taken as medical advice. We hope you enjoy this episode of Breakroom Banter. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Breakroom Banter. It's a hairstylist adjacent podcast where each week, two friends who happen to be hairstylists break down our weeks in the break room. I'm your host, Hunter Walden, joined as always by my lovely co-host,
Anna Schrader. And today we are going to talk about overworking. And we have a special guest on the podcast.
Yes, so Alicia is a phenomenal hairdresser. She is a national CUNE educator as well as an educator at the CUNE Academy. She was nominated for... So happy to have you here.
Yes. And Alicia, I don't know you as well, but I'm really excited to get to know you more. I've seen you at our trainings, and you just exude such a wonderful energy, full of joy, and you're kind to everyone, and you have like the coolest rockin' style. So yay, welcome, Alicia.
Thank you so much. No pressure to live up to that at all. I'm really excited to be here too. I will say, I think it's fun and really inspiring to see your friends not just think of something to do, like, oh, this would be cool to make a podcast, but then do it, and watch it sort of grow. So I'm excited to be a part of it. I feel kind of honored to be in the first season of many.
Thank you.
Sure.
So as you all know, we like to start off each week with our rose and thorn. So I'll go first. My rose this week is that I got a class request.
What?
Woo!
Yay! Congratulations! Hooray!
I am
Which one?
Getting out of here. It is a total CUNE experience. So they brought in the entire line during the Panda Express, and then they just really need a class. So I get to go teach a class.
Where's
in
the class?
Missouri. I don't care where it is, honestly.
Fun. Oh, yay. I'm so happy for you.
Thanks. My thorn is that I just laid around and did nothing today.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't get anything done.
That would be my rose.
Well, my brain is thinking of all the things that I need to get done that now I'll just do tomorrow, honestly. Yeah. So Alicia, what about you? What's your rose and thorn?
My rose would be, I think, having my niece here for her birthday. So that was just fun. Celebrating with her made me feel like I was also 14, which was great. My thorn would be, I am going through physical therapy after surgery, and I'm reaching that point where like I want to do more than I should do. So I'll say I overextended myself a little bit, which has been a gentle thorn every day as a reminder to do what you did, to lay around and do nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is why you are here today.
Yes.
On this particular episode.
Yeah.
What about you, Anna? I know you have a good old rose.
Yes, I just got back from vacation, and I was in Puerto Rico with my twin sister. We were celebrating our birthday. We made a big trip of it. We're like, we just are going to go somewhere and have fun and get away. And my brother-in-law also came along too. And Puerto Rico is wonderful in every single way. The people are amazing. The food, the drinks are good. The atmosphere, the sights, hiking, literally everything you want to do. It was a perfect mix of adventure and relaxation, and it was perfect. I would definitely recommend it to everyone. My thorn is literally the same as yours, Hunter, because I think my brain is still in Puerto Rico, because I had a whole list of things I wanted to get done today on my day off and prep before I go back to work tomorrow. And I just got so distracted. I couldn't stay focused. It was like one thing to the next. And I look back on my day and I'm like, ooh, what did I actually get done? I don't know, but it's probably what I needed. I probably needed a vacation from my vacation, as lame as that sounds, but it was still a good day, but I had a lot more. I always feel that way.
You need a vacation from your vacation.
I think it's true though that vacation is not rest.
No.
Vacation is a lot of the time is like go do, have fun, experience, and so then you're not actually resting, and we need rest. So it's like if you're sick for 3 days, and you go back to work on day 4, you didn't have time to actually recover. It's the same thing as vacation in like a different way.
It's true. And even though we did a lot of like laying on the beach, you're still like surrounding yourself with a totally different scene, and like it's pretty overstimulating, even though it was like wonderful. So yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I feel like you guys did a pretty even amount, from your Snapchat story at least, of like relaxing and exploring.
Yes. Yeah, we did. We did a lot of fun things. We did this really fun trip where we like zip lined. Okay, so my brother-in-law presented this to me like the week before we left. He's like, yeah, there's just like this lazy river where we're gonna float down in tubes and have a couple drinks. I'm like, great, sounds fun. Well, it ended up being like a full-on zip line hiking up like it was so fun. Lots of hiking, and it was white water tubing, so we were just kind of like bumbling down, scraping over rocks, and it was like we all had these dorky little helmets on, and it was so fun. But it was definitely not just floating down.
I will say, Alicia, something to know about Anna is that her idea of fun is like sweating. Like hiking up Mount Everest would be fun for Anna. You know what I mean?
I'm afraid of heights, so I don't know.
I like adventure, but at a pace that does not make me sweat.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Yeah. She wants to wear her fancy boots when she goes on adventures.
Oh, you're one of those hikers. I respect that. I completely respect that.
Today's episode, as Anna said, is about overworking. Alicia, I would love to take this opportunity for you to tell everyone.
I mean, to put it simply, I'm currently off work from an overuse injury. I spent a long time, now I realize, overworking, and it resulted in my physical therapist and I joke my injury is D, all of the above, because right now I've been off work since October, the end of October. It's the end of March. So like, what is that, 5 months?
5 months, yeah.
And I had surgery on my elbow for a nerve injury, but it started in 2018. And the issue, if I had treated it in 2018, could have been solved in, 2 or 3 months. But I didn't, because at the time I was teaching for CUNY. I owned a salon. It was a big, busy salon in Chicago. And then I was also working behind the chair. So it was like every day was a long day. Every week was a long week. Every day was work in one way or another. So they say, you need to take 3 weeks off. And I laughed. I was like, oh, well, that's not possible. So how's like I negotiated with my doctor. Fast forward, and now even just getting back to work is proving to be far more difficult than I thought it would be, because I have the recovery from the surgery, letting the nerve heal. I have tendinitis in my forearm, my thumb. I recently was diagnosed with carpal tunnel. And because of all the rest required, I also had medial epicondylitis, which is golfer's elbow. And because of all of the rest required to heal the various things, I now have muscle atrophy in my right arm. So it is just like, my mom is a nurse, and she has always said, if you burn the candle at both ends, the candle will burn you, right? And it's sort of similar to like when you hear people say, if you don't take rest when you're supposed to, your body will force you to take rest. And I just really, really tested that theory. So I think it's a fine line when you love your job, but I did a really good job of overworking, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Jesus Christ. I was like, I remember that it was a lot, but that was a lot to hear it back.
Yeah.
Again.
So it's directly affected by overuse.
Yeah.
Okay.
When they told me in September, they referred me to a surgeon. And when they referred me to a surgeon, I had gone through multiple rounds of physical therapy trying to heal everything. But because it was very, the last week that I was actually working, when I think back on it, it sounds insane. I would go to work for 3 to 4 hours in the morning, but I would have pain in my arm. So in the middle of the day, I would leave to go get acupuncture to relieve the pain and then go back to work because I had clients scheduled.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and not to mention, wasn't the last few weeks of you working, weren't you trying to close a salon?
I closed the salon in basically August. So it was like August, September was when I had put it this way, I started saving my money. Like I had a feeling, but they hadn't officially said yes, surgery. They referred me to the surgeon, and it wasn't until the end of October that they were like, absolutely, you need surgery. And when they referred me, I sort of said, you know, are you sure? And he literally, with a straight face, he said, you either get surgery or you get a new career.
Damn.
Mm-hmm. And it was because you need to allow your body to heal. And I just didn't. And this is why it started in 2018. It's now 2022 and I'm still dealing with it because it was just, I mean, it says on all of my paperwork, overuse injury, because it's the same motions over and over. And then, I mean, it wasn't, I don't want to say it was common, but if I worked a 15-hour day, I would just be like, yeah, I mean, it's a long day, but like, I'm okay.
Yeah. So I guess I would like to know a little bit more about what the surgery entailed and your recovery process, but I kind of want to go back to that. Is what were your days? I have two questions in this. Explain kind of like your routine as a hairdresser. And then the next question I want you to think about is, how were you mentally? Like, were you feeling fulfilled in that busy lifestyle? Because the second one's probably a little harder, a little bit more of a loaded question, but I'm just curious to know.
So behind the chair, my routine was double booking. We had, you know, depending on the time frame, 8 to 9 stylists, 3 apprentices or like assistants, and then everyone double booked. So I would see like between, you know, if it's color or cut, whatever, maybe between 7 and 13 clients a day. 13 if it was like all haircuts or short appointments, but it also, if I did your color and I wasn't doing your haircut, I would do your color and somebody else would finish you out, like do your shampoo, your toner, your blow dry, which meant there were days that I would have 4 clients at a time in the salon if I had 4 colors that were not getting haircuts. So it was, I mean, never not busy. And you couple that with booking, you know, 10 to 12 weeks out fully booked. It's a funny thing. It sounds like the goal, but then when you're doing it, it makes it fun, fast paced, but also very little room for error, whether that be somebody wanting to adjust their toner or you needing to call in sick. Like there's not any wiggle room with that. So on one hand, it feels like good use of time, right? Because you're getting as many people in as you can, but it was a lot. And the week was sort of like, I would have a day that I would work behind the chair. And then because we had a salon with apprentices, they would have to have a day of education. So Mondays I taught for Kuhn, Tuesdays I worked behind the chair, Wednesdays I did a full day of education with the apprentices, Thursdays I worked behind the chair, Friday was my office day to do payroll and like whatever other office things needed to be done. Saturday I worked behind the chair. So Sunday was my main day off. And then if it's a week that I was teaching out of town, Sunday became my travel day. So it also wasn't uncommon to have like, I've worked, you know, 11 days straight, 17 days straight.
No days off.
It is. No days off. Yeah.
Wow.
But I think
I have another question in that too. Like in all of that, how was your creativity? Because we also work in a field where we're supposed to be creative, but personally, when I get busy, my creativity gets stifled. What was that like for you?
This is the funny thing, because my schedule was sort of like every other day, right? It was teach, do hair, teach other people different things, do hair, do office work, do hair. So it allowed for enough creativity to like trick yourself into this is fine. Because with Kuhn, there is a lot of creativity in certain things that I would do with that, right? Like we would do photo shoots sometimes, we would do hair shows. And so when I would do a hair show, it felt emotionally like I get to work 3 days straight with, 4 of my best friends. And now we have these 3 or 4 models that are letting us do what we want. And now we get to be creative. We aren't bound by somebody's expectations, desires, and budget. We can just do. So it felt like, I get this creative outlet. But because I feel like because of that, you're not categorizing it as work. You're just like, oh, this is a different thing that
I'm doing. It's fun. It's a hobby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it feels creative. So it was almost like my Kuhn teaching stuff fueled the creativity. And then when I was working behind the chair, because God bless every apprentice and assistant in the world, that really allows you to do the most creative a part of the appointment only. I'm going to apply your blonde. And then somebody else is going to shampoo it out. They're going to do the toner. They're going to, wash the toner out, and they're going to do your blow dry. And then I get to just go and see what that beautiful blonde looks like. So from a creativity standpoint, that was another part of like tricking yourself into, this is so fun. This is great.
Well, and I feel like as hairstylists, it does seem like that is the goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like when you're there and you're living it and you're quadruple booked, it feels like that is the dream, right?
Yeah.
Like you're rolling in the dough at that point.
Well, yeah.
Not as a salon owner.
Right. But I think I think this industry is a really unique industry when it comes to overworking, because we all have passion, genuine passion for what we're doing. Like you hear people say, well, if we didn't get paid to go to work, we probably wouldn't work. But like I was doing hair before I was getting paid to do hair because I thought it was fun. You both probably were too. So I think that makes it so much harder to remind yourself, this is work, this is not work, and you need to find, a way to separate it. And then on top of that, you have the, you've heard of it referred to as like the hustle culture, right? Everybody needs to have a side hustle, a side gig, and I think if you love that and that's working for you, fantastic, do it. But it doesn't work for everybody. And when you pair it with a job where, when I was in school, they would say, this is one of the only careers where if you want a raise, you give yourself a raise, you raise your prices, you do 1 extra highlight a day, you sell more shampoo. So you're giving yourself a raise. But that's, raising your prices, that is giving yourself a raise. Taking an extra client a day,
that is not a raise. It's making yourself work harder. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But we're sort of fed this, I think well-intentioned, but we're fed this as we can work as much or as little as we want. We can work as much as we want. and as long as we're in demand, then we're successful. And there's some truth. Obviously, you want your chair to be full. You want to be booked far enough out that you feel like you have security. But too much of
it comes at a cost.
Right.
Absolutely.
So that would be rolling into the next, what was your mental state in the heat of being super, super busy and kind of what we're spelling out, overworking?
I think throughout the years, because there was like an 8-year period where I was doing all of that, right? Teaching, owning, doing hair. So there was a little bit of a rise and fall throughout it.
Right.
For the majority of it, I either loved it or told myself I loved it, and I wasn't unhappy enough to like question it. Do you know what I mean? Like I wasn't reevaluating. I was just doing what I had been doing. I heard if you follow Teffy on TikTok, love her. She said in one of her TikToks a while back, I don't even know what I like. I just know what I do. Yeah. And I think it's sort of that, like, this is just what I'm doing and this is what I have been doing. So do I like this schedule still? I don't know. I haven't thought about it until I started to realize, probably in like right around the time it started hurting my body, right? Like 2018, right. 2019, it started to feel like, oh, okay, I have 3 people that couldn't get in and I had to, whatever, my flight got canceled and now I have to put these people somewhere. And it starts to feel like that versus, no problem, I'll find it. It's fine. Like they're very different. You notice that shift. So I started noticing that shift, but it wasn't, it's funny, like when I think back, it wasn't that I thought I should work less. I immediately started to think, is it doing hair? Is it working with clients? Is it feeling like somebody always needs something from you versus am I taking enough time for myself or am I giving enough time to relax? My brain didn't go to what it actually was. So toward the end, it was definitely, when I say the end, I mean the time before I ended up needing surgery and all of that stuff. But toward that time period, it was definitely, anxious. In hindsight, now I realize far more anxious than I realized going into depression, because like I have one day off a week and my partner and I would almost start joking that one day was just the day for me to like be upset about whatever, cry if I need to, like that was the day that I could release. And that started the self-analyzing of like, oh, why all of a sudden do you feel this way compared to a year and a half ago when like you just want to go hiking and be happy because it hadn't put that much pressure,
So, and that brings me to remember when we were in Vegas and I asked you, I was like, how are you doing? And you're like, well, I guess we have time.
Yeah, it was a lot. And I think part of the reason why is because you don't stop and self-analyze. You don't stop and think, especially when you're that busy all the time and everyone around you is like, oh my gosh, this is so great. This is the dream. This is what you want. You're like getting praise for being this busy. And I think part of it too is that I was 24 when we started the process of opening a salon, 25 when we opened it. And this is in like the heart of Chicago, 10-chair salon.
Beautiful, stunning.
It was, thank you. But it was a big undertaking. And I think being so young at the start of it puts you in this mindset of like, everybody is, proud of, or your reaction is like, oh, you do all
young.
This. And it gives you, well-intentioned encouragement to continue doing it. But even choosing to close the salon was something where you realize you start to think about, well, what if other people think this? And I think that goes back to the same thing of like, and I don't mean like, my neighbor, I mean my peers in the industry, my fellow salon owner friends. Will they think that I'm giving up because I'm not working this insane schedule and wanting to book 12 weeks out? Because that's what we know of to be the goal.
Successful, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm. That seems like such a like common like American toxic work ideal. And you're not alone. This industry is like I feel like it's very common, that mindset, but it's also in a lot of other industries. And we do that's the beautiful thing about what we do is that we can create, going back to what you were saying in hair school, like you can realize this and you can take a step back. Although it is extra hard because you're looking at your clients in the face and you're saying, no, I can't. So that's an extra hardship, but like the beauty
and
of
those
it
are
is,
people that you like.
yes, they're not just clients. Like as all of you guys who are listening, you know, our clients are like our family and our friends, and they become like that. And so it's really hard saying goodbye, like, because in a way, if you can't fit them in, that's hard.
You have to give them an option.
Yeah,
you have to think of it from both sides. And I think it's also, you know, boundaries, wonderful thing, easier said than done. And when it's, you know, if you're a cashier at a grocery store and some person walks through, you don't know who they are, their coupon is expired, it doesn't bother you to be like, no, your coupon is expired, you cannot use this, goodbye. But now make it your aunt coming through the register and they're trying to use the code, and you're like, do I have a code that I can, what if I can make this other coupon? And I feel like that's what it ends up being, you know?
Yeah, that's a really good example.
I need to come in on Friday. I have a wedding on Saturday. And you're like, well, of course I want your hair to look good for this wedding. Like, is it really that much of my time to come in 45 minutes early so I can, but how many clients do you have? How many clients do you do that for? So it's always in hindsight. And you know, you said it is in other industries too. When Hunter said, you know, this is going to be on overworking, I was like, okay. And I just Google overworking, and you start reading facts just generally. And like, you know, in other countries, they literally have words that mean death from overwork. And it's, and you start reading about, you know, productivity levels, and when you reach 50 hours a week, it drops by a certain percentage. When you reach 55, it like plummets. And I think it said on average, people are the happiest working 38 hours a week on average.
I believe that.
Now make it a hairstylist that, you know, rents a suite or a chair or a booth that has to do all of their own ordering and, you know, pull their foils, fold their towels, do all of that stuff. How many hours are you behind a chair? If 38 hours is what we're supposed to work, you need like 8 hours to, you know, order your order, unpack your order, inventory your order, do everything involved. So now we, you know, for happiness, quote, should work 30 hours behind the chair as full time. But, you know,
that tips you over. Yeah.
So now that you've, go ahead.
Oh, I also wanted to go back to the quote that you were saying about Teffy, is that her name?
Yeah,
the TikToker. I don't know what I like, I know what I do. And also that's another thing about our industry that struck me. Like, we are constantly having to be like positive. And even in our work environment, when things are really rough, it's like, have a good attitude, change your attitude to be happier. So we end up like fooling ourselves that, yay, I am happy, this is good. And because that's all we know. And then the world is telling us to work and then have a good attitude and make it till you make it.
And we're trained to, you know, don't tell your client how you're feeling. If they ask how you are, the only acceptable answer is, I'm good, girl. How are you?
So then you start believing it. You say, oh, I'm good, everything's good, I'm fine.
And that eventually bleeds over into your personal life, and you have to have surgery. And now you're not working.
Just one quick thing that's funny is I remember specifically one of the last 2 days that I was doing hair before surgery halted everything. Because the day they said you need surgery, they said, no, you shouldn't be working at all right now. Today was your last day. When can you come back? So it was like 2 days before that, I mentioned to one of my clients, because he specifically said, he's a longtime client, gets a haircut every 3 weeks. So he specifically said, how is your arm? And I just laughed and I said, well, I'm having a surgery consult in 2 days, but I think we'll be all right. And he said, hey, why are you here if you're having a surgery consult? And I literally laughed and said, you know, people pleaser. And he just said, Alicia, you need to worry about pleasing yourself, not your clients. And I was taken aback. I was like, wow, oh my gosh, Nate, shout out Nate. Like, thank you for saying that. you know,
people
because
genuinely do care about us. Yes.
And he knew that meant he wasn't going to get his every third week haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Right.
So now that you've been off from behind the chair, have you discovered any new hobbies?
So the nature of why I'm off makes hobbies difficult. Because I mean, the specific hobbies that I'm drawn to, because this is actually, hobbies are one of the reasons why this is making me reevaluate. Like, I just shouldn't even attempt to go back to what I was doing before, because every hobby that I had or have or was like, I want to, involves your hands. Like, I love flipping furniture, gardening. I was learning to play the ukulele, and all of these require the two hands. And now, so even now, in like, the reason why I'm not back to work yet is because I'm healing nerve damage. It's not permanent nerve damage, but you have to make sure your hand doesn't go numb, because the more it goes numb, the higher you risk the nerve damage becoming permanent. It's my understanding, at least. So whatever it is, I can do for like 20, 30 minutes, but none of those things that I just mentioned. So if I want to do the dishes, so my hobbies have been a lot of television.
Okay.
It's resting. I've done some puzzles. Yeah, it's a lot of that. It's a lot of lightweight.
A lot of feet work.
Reading some books. Just trying to not do things for a little bit. So my hobby is like relaxing, which is nice, because it does kind of make you realize, okay, I kind of joke with my partner, like, okay, when I have my hand back, I'm really excited to do this. Or like so it makes you realize the things that you're actually excited to get back to. You know, organizing the basement, not one of them. Gardening, yes. You know, picking the ukulele back up, yes. Flipping furniture still, yes. But
that puts everything into perspective.
Yeah,
we take so much for granted.
And I think, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I see that you are like teaching again. So you are slowly getting back into work.
I'm trying.
It's a dangerous, slippery slope for Alicia Dixon.
Yes. And if I'm being completely honest, when I scheduled those classes, we were under the impression that I would also be back to work behind the chair, because when I had surgery, it was sort of we're thinking 3 to 4 months off, 4 months like max. But the phrase I've heard so many times now is nerve injuries are unpredictable. So we thought I could be back to work by the end of July. Oh, I hope I didn't just like manifest something. We hoped that I could be back to work by the end of January, February-ish. Obviously that didn't happen. But I had scheduled these classes. So I just kind of asked them, like, do you care? And they were like, do you need the money? And I was like, absolutely. And we're like, well then, sure. So part of it is just because, you know, being realistic, you take 5 months off work in an industry where you're not covered by an employer with,
if you don't work, you don't get paid.
Disability. Right. So part of it is need, part of it is I'm like barely getting a permission slip, because I fortunately with teaching can spread out the arm movement. Like if I'm teaching a class in person, I'm taking one single balayage application and spreading it out over 4 hours. I'm showing you one section, and then my arm is essentially resting while I walk around the room and help you do your section. And then I go back. So it's kind of built in that it works. The hardest part of it is like taking your suitcase to the class, setting up the class, because you just have to always remember, like, use your left hand for everything. The first time I flew to a class, she said, I'll only let you go if you wear a sling. I don't need a sling. But she said I had
It
to wear it,
immobilizes.
so I didn't instinctually start picking up a 40-pound luggage when I was only supposed to be lifting like 5 pounds.
Right.
So yeah, so I am back to teaching, which is nice from a perspective of like building up your physical strength again, building up your muscle atrophy is a thing that really throws a wrench in resting because you have to use it. So teaching helps. It's just something you have to be more
mindful,
conscious of, which I think maybe is like a good exercise from the universe that like, okay, we're going to let you work, but only if you remain mindful of how you're working and how much and at what pace.
Yeah. This is totally off topic, but it has to do with nerves in the elbow, and it was horrible. In Puerto Rico, we were hiking, and it was kind of like this little rocky area, boulders, and this sweet older woman, it was like this beautiful waterfall that like you could swim under. It was a swimming hole, and this older woman, it was clear it was like her family that was in the pool. She was like sitting on the rocks, and I was kind of by her, and she gets up to like grab something and then falls backwards, and I was like just arms. I couldn't catch her. I was like, oh my gosh, I saw her. She was like,
did you see it in slow motion?
Yeah. And it was so sad, and my sister's a nurse. She's an ER nurse, so I was like, Britta, get over here. And I'm like trying, and
instinctually helping
her elbow, like all of a sudden I looked at it. I was like, did it look like that before? And she like touched it, and it was like a big dimple in her elbow. Like it was concave.
Like in what part? Like in
you had to show off the pretty one.
No, I put it away immediately.
It was right here, like right in the center of the elbow. It looked like the point of her elbow had like a little butt chin.
Ooh.
Yes. And
maybe she chipped a bone.
Was like, I got her number and everything, and I was like, please let me know how you recover. And and she said that it was nerve damage, instant nerve damage, and she's gonna have to have surgery. So all of like, you're telling me all of this, and I'm thinking about this poor woman. I don't even know what her name is. I have her number, and I'm like talking like, it was so bad because the surgery sounds really like extensive, and
it, like they said, nerve damage is unpredictable. So maybe it'll be easier for her. But it is an interesting thing to heal versus just like a bone.
Yeah, because you have to put in the work to heal the nerve.
And interestingly enough, they told me that your nerve heals like I'm trying to figure out how to say this. So your nerve is, a line. It's like a string. So it sort of moves from one side of the nerve down your arm to the end of the nerve. So she said, it depends how far down your nerve damage goes. And if we're basing it on where the nerve was like entrapped and how far that went down, so on and so forth, I was like, oh, so I have like 9 inches of nerve to heal. And she says, it heals at about 1 inch a month. And I was like, oh, so it's just like I'm growing out a pixie cut, but it's my nerve instead. And she just kind of was like, oh, haha, that's funny. Like, is it funny?
But that is the accurate description. Yeah.
Yes. So your nerve heals sort of like the same way hair grows, just at a faster
so that
pace.
means
that's on average. Yeah.
So that means that on average, your injury should take about 9 months to heal.
To completely heal. Yeah. That's like the but it could be faster, it could be slower. That's, like she said, it's on average. So
and nerve damage is unpredictable.
Yeah, it is unpredictable.
Oh my gosh, that is so interesting, but also like it's the body is really fascinating.
Yeah.
So how often are you going to like physical therapy every week?
So this is the sick joke about physical therapy. It's expensive. So I go like twice a week, but I do physical therapy
every day,
1 to 2 times every day. So
you have at-home exercises.
Yeah, it's I I do less exercises now than I did like 2 months ago, but I timed it one time and it was like 2.5 hours of physical therapy every day because I have so many things that were like small, like you're gonna make a fist 30 times. You're gonna bend your hand backward and forward 30 times and you have to do everything slow. So it's like this, you know, very small movement takes 1.5 minutes, and then this other very small movement. And so then I had like 8 of those just for my fingers because there's so many things. If it were one issue, if it were just the nerve issue, or if it were just the medial epicondylitis or just the carpal tunnel, then it would be far less. But because it was all of it, then obviously there's more. So yeah, every day, but a couple times a week.
So is this a physical therapist or an occupational therapist?
Occupational therapist. I'll be honest, I don't know, because it's physical therapy. She's a hand specialist.
Yeah.
When they sent me to quote occupational therapy before I had surgery, it was the same thing. Like we were doing the same thing. So I don't know if it just so happens that I would do the same thing. Yeah. But yeah.
So did they say that there are preventative exercises that we all as hairdressers should be doing or could be doing?
Yes and no. So this is something that I thought was interesting when I first started having the issues. I was almost like arguing with the logic. I was like, but no, they taught us in hair school that if, you know, we do this, it's more ergonomic. If we do this, it's more ergonomic. And every doctor I talked to said, it does not matter how well you do something ergonomically. If it's repetitive, you risk these things. So part of it is varying the way that you do things. So if you know that you hold your hands in the exact same position when you cut, then, you know, look at your schedule and try to do a haircut and then a blow dry and then a color and then a haircut, instead of just like, I'm doing all clipper cuts all day long. You know, it's the same that they don't want you doing. And then it's also, this I think is the biggest thing, is strengthening and or stretching the opposite side of used muscles. So for us, we use whatever the muscles are called that are like the front of your chest, right? Like the front of your shoulders. We use those a lot when we're blow drying because we're reaching forward and pulling back. So usually it's common that we have really strong muscles in the front, but our back muscles aren't as strong because that's not what you're using when your arms are positioned in front of you. So like half of what we're doing right now is like back exercises to try to pull your shoulders back into the correct position. I think this time, like, you know, the 2000s, because we have phones and we have computers, we often have our arms out in front of us, holding our phone on our keypad, so it rolls your shoulders forward. So I think it's just, you know, depending on if you already go to the gym, I didn't. So making sure that you're either strengthening those, you don't have to go to the gym. You can use like exercise bands that are really lightweight to just exercise only your shoulders and your back and all of that stuff. But it's just like doing something, stretching, laying on those, you know, rubber, what are they called? The roller things.
I think it's called a roller.
Yeah, those. Lay on those. Do the stretches where you put your arm on the wall and stretch it out this way. All of those pecs, that's what the muscle's called. All of the pec stretches and strengthening your back and stretching your hands and doing the exercises to make sure that you are maintaining like mobility and dexterity in all parts of your hand. Because something I learned, the reason I got carpal tunnel was because when everything else in my hand stopped working, the other part of your body will just start overworking. Like I have pain in my shoulder that's because it was overcompensating for the rest of my arm. There was no injury. It's just tired.
Yeah.
So you won't realize your body's doing that.
Right.
It'll just do it.
That's a very good reminder for everyone. And even if you're not in hair, whatever your job is, like analyze what your body is doing, and then on your off time, balance it.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you for that.
So I think this has been a really fantastic discussion. And we just want to ask, what's next? Do you have anything to plug? We're kind of nearing towards the end, the last 5 minutes. Do you have anything that you are doing that you want to share? This is where you could plug your Instagram, things like that.
Yeah, the main thing I think is education with Kuhn. That's kind of what I'm the most I'm involved in and excited about. So my Instagram is at Alicia Dixon Hair. I'm sure it'll be written down somewhere on the text of the podcast.
It sure will.
But my Instagram is just Alicia Dixon Hair. And then if you are a hairstylist, you want to come to any classes, especially like at the Academy in Atlanta, you can go to kuhneducation.com, find the classes there. It says which classes I'm doing, color correction, advanced color correction with Alicia Orabella. And it's a one-time class in August with Victoria Kelly. We're calling it Pastel Blondes and Prism Pops. So just like a fun creative thing. Yeah, I'm really excited. So that's kind of the only avenue we're taking it one avenue at a time, chilling out.
There you go.
That's the main
I'm proud
thing.
of you.
Thank you.
I'm going to say I'm proud of you for not working.
Yes, relaxing. It's funny because we started this podcast with both of you saying, I just have a thorn because I didn't do anything yesterday. And I'm in my head like, bravo, yes,
go you.
I need, just relax.
Oh,
that's awesome. So for sure, all of those will be linked down below. And the last thing that we do on our show is we end with our hair myth. So Anna, do you have the Google Doc pulled up? Do you want to read it off this week?
Sure. Okay. So is changing your shampoo often healthy for your hair? You know, when people say, my hair's just used to this shampoo, I need to try another one. It stopped working. This shampoo stopped working. Is that legit?
No.
Question.
No.
No.
I like to say, I like to tell my clients, your hair's dead. It's dead skin cells.
Your hair doesn't.
So it's going to do what you tell it to do. And if you fry it or kill it even more, there's not really much you can do to bring it back from that.
Right. And if you go ahead, Alicia.
I was just going to say, if you have a shampoo that you bought and you felt like it worked for a week and then it stopped working, was it a placebo effect? If you used a shampoo for 4 months and then you felt like it stopped working, look at the shampoo that you're using or the conditioner that you're using, because it could just be, product buildup. You could just need to do a couple clarifying treatments to get it off.
And look at your routine. Did you change anything? Like, did you color your hair when you were only getting haircuts, or stop coloring your hair? Because now you have 2 different hairs you're working with. You got your not colored hair and your colored hair.
And I always say it probably wasn't, yes, clarify your hair, do whatever it needs to do, but it may not have been the right shampoo to begin with. And now it took this long for you to figure it out that it's not the right one, or we need to do a clarifier, like you said, Alicia. But when you do find the one that works for you, stick with it.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Breakroom Banter, a hairstylist adjacent podcast. If you're listening on your favorite podcast app, leave us a 5-star review and let us know what you think. And if you're listening on YouTube, the secret word of the week is work. If you'd like to follow us on social media, mine is at HairXHunter. Anna's is at Anna.shr8hair. And our podcast Instagram is at Breakroom Banter. All of our Instagrams will be linked down below. And yeah, we'll see you next week for another episode. Bye.